switch over. Alright, hey guys, what's up?
Hello.
And before literally anyone asks, yes, this is a Game Boy layout. It is not the 4x3 layout. It is different.
Do you want me to crop out the... Oh yeah, I forgot. Do you want me to crop out the border?
No, I got it.
You
No, I got it. Yeah.
Alright.
Magic.
Magic. Well, I mean, what's magic is Amy standing on the cloud yelling at us right now.
You mean this isn't how the game normally plays?
Yeah. Nope, she's a little bit scared right now. Oops, yeah. Alright. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do a countdown whenever.
So, we're doing Knuckles, I'm guessing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and Knuckles. I'm excited to...
I did force someone who's got the controller in his hands to donate $10 to make it Knuckles again.
Yeah, I don't push for Knuckles because I was actually practicing some of his tricks, which will probably fail in the run. And I'm like, I should probably just run Knuckles. I prefer just because I'm more polished on him right now. But yeah, here we have me. I'm Kirby. We have Alec on commentary.
Hi.
And this is Sonic Advance. This is the first Sonic Advance game on the Game Boy Advance. It plays pretty much like your Genesis games. So, and this is on a GameCube with a GBA player. So, do I need to give it a countdown?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry. All right. So there are 4 characters in this game: Sonic, Amy, Tails, and Knuckles. Knuckles' ability is to glide, and you're noticing right now that every time I land from a glide, I can immediately spin dash.
It's a nice mechanic. Not every game Knuckles is in has that.
I already messed up the super glide. There is a IL strat to skip this entire stage with Knuckles by gliding over, but it's really difficult and inconsistent, and I messed it up because you have to do a blind jump at a really high speed and then do a blind glide, and if you're slightly off either of those, then you're not going to make it. So you can beat the stage in like 27 seconds.
Yeah, one thing that's worth mentioning, of the characters, Knuckles is probably the least consistent. The estimate accounts for that kind of by default because it also has to account for Amy in this bid war.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So, Amy is the slowest, but she actually has some interesting tech, also has the best boss fighting ability.
Oh, she is the best
Sonic
for most bosses.
Yeah, Sonic is the kind of middle ground-ish. Second slowest, but, you know, still less volatile than Knuckles. Tails is the fastest by a fair margin just because of his ability to fly. Like, that's basically all you need to know about why he's the fastest.
And you might notice, usually whenever before I spin dash, usually I'm doing a little punch. Most characters have an ability where if they attack on ground, they automatically come to a complete stop, which is really nice, because to spin dash, you have to be able to crouch. And when you're crouching, and if you can crouch, then that means you can spin dash.
Yeah,
not a very good fight, but whatever.
So this boss is usually pretty standard, but if you miss a hit or two, then he can just kind of start moving around a little bit faster than you want him to.
Yeah, usually I get around a 50-second time, but oh well. Okay, Secret Base is Zone 2. This zone is pretty straightforward. The first act is everyone takes pretty much the same path. But I took a checkpoint, and I'm going to have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to give this one shot.
Okay, so since I'm a little bit behind, I'm just going to go ahead and start explaining the basics of this trick and how it works, because it's going to come up later regardless.
Yeah.
So, one of the main mechanics in Sonic games, in the 2D ones at least, is that there are layers that you can be on. This is how loops work. It's how a lot of different other similar things work. So what he did there was he manipulated the game to put him on the wrong layer. He then went through a whole bunch of walls because he was on the wrong layer to have collision with those walls. And every character, when they do these kinds of skips at least, has a different way to get through the level. Sprite objects will still be solid, but the layer in the background you're on is what's important for collision with walls and floors. So you can't just land on any given floor, for example, once you're on the wrong layer, which makes a lot of these skips really perilous.
Yeah, the skip I did in the previous level is actually really inconsistent. I'm very pleased I actually got it, because that glide timing is really tight. If you're too high, you're going to grab a pole. If you're too low, you're not going to make it.
Yeah,
so it's pretty much purely an IL strat, pretty much.
Yeah, you saw him correct in midair a few times here. That's just to try to get Knuckles in the right spot. So you see him then hitting the springs. Those are, of course, sprite-based objects, so he's able to glide on them. And then he got himself back on the normal layer here. I believe the skip can go a bit farther than that.
Yeah, correct? I messed up. But it's a really difficult skip here, too. But I'm glad I didn't at least die.
Yeah, so he could have carried this, I believe, to the end, more or less, at least.
Pretty much.
And just carrying it as far as he did already skipped a fair bit of the level.
It's a really difficult skip for Knuckles because he has to jump off of an invisible platform, land on the top part of a tiny horizontal spring, and then do a super glide off an item box off screen in order to make it to the end to make the full skip, and it's really inconsistent.
Yeah, basically all of the skips Knuckles are difficult.
The only easy one is Angel Island 1, which is really easy, but we'll get to that. Oh, okay, that's fine. So Casino Paradise is pretty much your classic casino zone. It's not random,
cycles.
But it has, yeah, cycles everywhere.
Cycles the level, pretty much, like if you think about Casino Night in Sonic and other similar levels in the Genesis games, it's like more punishing your mistakes. Here it's cycles, and those kind of punish your mistakes as well, because if you fall a little bit behind, you may end up having to wait for 3, 4, 5 seconds. And another thing that's worth mentioning is that the hitboxes, especially when it comes to crush deaths in this game, can be a bit BS. So when you see these moving block cycles, and if he decides to play it risky, that's riskier than it looks.
Yeah, well, at least it's not Sonic Advance 3 crushers. Also, I got a 42, which is a really good time. That went pretty much perfectly, so I'm really happy with how that went.
Yeah, that looked about as smooth as it can possibly go. Like, you could get a little bit better, but not much, reasonably speaking.
Just on the other hand, oh well. Yeah, there are some slopes that are so steep that, like, if you try to punch, you'll still keep moving downward on it, and that's happened there. So I blame Subpixels because it's practically random whether you land on that part of the slope or not.
Yeah, subpixels, when it comes to slopes, they mean you can get randomly stopped. They mean you can have your momentum act in a different way than it might normally. So instead of your momentum going to the right, it can go to the left, and things like that can actually vary depending on your subpixels, and there's no practical way to manipulate that.
Okay, this is boss is random. Very random. Knuckles is very, like, he can do really well depending on the pattern. Like, he can get 4 hits on one cycle if you'll be lucky, but sometimes you just can only get like 1 or 2, because Knuckles doesn't have a fast way to get to the top platform. Amy and Tails do, but Knuckles doesn't. It still went alright, though.
Yeah, that was not bad at all. Only one really bad pattern, and the rest were at least okay.
Alright, so Ice Mountain is the ice and water zone, although we're barely going to enter water, ideally. It's a pretty chill zone, pun intended. And it's pretty much just
Kirby.
movement oriented.
Kirby, you need
What's
to cool it.
Chill off, dude.
No way, man.
Alright, there's a minor shortcut Knuckles can take, or I can fail the shortcut. Oh well. Yeah, speed shoes are really powerful in this game. You really... In fact, with Amy, I'm pretty sure that she gets speed shoes in more stages than she doesn't, because they're just that important in this game.
Yeah, Amy's movement by default is really slow compared to the other characters. She just doesn't have the speed options, although she has really good vertical movement and her attacks are OP against bosses. So speed shoes make an extra difference for her than, you know, other characters who might have different movement tech options that can make up for them not getting speed shoes.
So that's like a developer intended shortcut there to kind of skip a big water section. Sub-minute, nice. RIP real-time strats. I lost like 1 second from that, because I would have gotten 5,000 time bonus if I waited like 4 frames. Which
Not
is 50
nearly
frames.
as bad as in like the Genesis games, or especially Sonic 1 Master System.
Oh jeez.
Oh man, are the score countdowns for that are painful because you can't even speed them up and they're incredibly slow. But yeah, this is one reason why, like many Sonic games in the classic sense, the 2D games especially, we go by in-game time.
Well, Sonic Advance actually swapped to RTA minus time bonus. Ooh, okay, that's fine. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much the same for the most part in this game.
RTA minus time bonus, of course, is the closest alternative. It's the middle ground. Sonic 3 and Knuckles uses that, and a few other games use it, but not a ton of them.
So this boss, what you're supposed to do is, he's random. Where he moves is random. Where the icicles fall down is random, and you need to use them as stepping stones. Fortunately for Knuckles, what they added an ability in this game for Knuckles to float on top of water, which is really nice. And it's usually pretty useless because it actually slows you down when entering water. But in this case, you can just cheese this fight by floating on the water.
Yeah.
Every character can cheese this fight besides Sonic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this boss is really only bad as Sonic. Otherwise, it can still troll you if you get hit down below by one of those stalactites, icicles, whatever you want to call them. Isis stalactites, whatever.
Alright, so I got 1 skip and a half of a skip, and here's the 3rd skip in the run we're gonna see. This is the one stage in the game that is skipped with literally every character. It's great. It's freaking beautiful. I'll let it explain itself.
Yeah, so pretty much all I'll say to start off is you remember how I mentioned about the layers and how he gets himself on the wrong layer so that, you know, collision doesn't happen in many cases when it normally would. There are a few different techniques that different characters use. Some of them hit a checkpoint later on, some don't. Some of them, like you can see him, he has a pretty easy time hitting that checkpoint because he can just fly right over to it and then kind of go left and right like he did there. But then he's at the end of the level, so it's okay.
You can just glide to the goalpost technically, but when you hit the goalpost, your character has to be like running on ground, and since you don't have the correct path, you will just die instead. So the fastest way to fix that is just kill yourself and fix their path swap. Ooh, I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah, you do actually have to get the score counter and all that to count down, or else you'll just get sent back to your last checkpoint in the level anyway, which, if you didn't hit that checkpoint there, would be the beginning of the level.
So Knuckles was glided underneath like the first third of the level, which is nice. And here's a technique called a super glide. If I can get it. Got it.
Yeah. A super glide is just timing a glide so that it takes into account your vertical momentum as well, and that gives you a bunch of extra height. It's a pretty standard technique in all the 2D Sonic games with Knuckles. So, using that, of course, allows him to get up to that upper path a little bit quicker.
So this boss is random. He can either stand there and do nothing, which is the medium pattern, glide, which is bad, and spin dash, which is the best pattern. And when he goes blue, he can either glide or spin dash, and spin dash is the better pattern. It's actually surprisingly difficult. And Knuckles, and Knuckles. Triple Knuckles. And Knuckles and Knuckles.
This game needs a Knuckles and Knuckles mode, so you can have Knuckles and Knuckles and Knuckles fighting Knuckles.
4 Knuckles! Alright.
As many Knuckles as you want.
So this next stage is
no
Big
chuckling!
Rocket. No chuckling! Alright, so this stage is an interesting stage. It's split into 3 parts, and you have to keep climbing a rocket, and you're actually on a 5-minute timer for each part that you climb up. It's the longest stage in the game, pretty notorious, and a lot of people love it. There's also a lot of people that really hate it, for valid reasons, because it's just a very long and different kind of level. I actually just skipped the entire first half of the first part right there with that little super glide there.
Yeah, that super glide is actually not that difficult. The problem is you can't retry it once you break that shield box. But that's the easy part of this stage. So now he's trying to get the subpixels to line up. There's no way to get that consistently other than just kind of hoping. And that allowed him to get out of bounds here. And now he's doing other super glides to get successively higher up in the level, landing on sprite-based objects as he needs to. And this skip is very difficult. So Kirby probably wouldn't really be talking during this point no matter what, but from what I'm seeing with my bit of stream delay, oh, this is looking good.
I got it. I got in the marathon. Holy crap! I can't believe I got this. You have no idea how difficult that is. Oh my god.
So each one of those super glides, you pretty much have to go by feel, because you're not really going to have time to react to the thing you're supposed to super glide off of. It is exceptionally difficult to do that. The fact that, like, he's not enthusiastic about getting it for no reason, that is legitimately really damn hard.
The first one is the hardest one, and you have to do all of them off screen. So you just have to get a feel for it and time them. And the first one's difficult because you have to weave back and forth off screen around some spikes, or else you're gonna bonk your head and lose your height. And the timing is really tight for it.
Yeah, each super glide has a limited amount of time that you can trigger the glide, and the faster your vertical momentum, the tighter it is, because obviously, you know, you're going faster, you have less time to trigger that. So, especially for the first one, since he has so much momentum vertically, he has a really tight timing window, and it's basically blind. Like, you can rely to some extent on the background, but that's only going to tell you so much.
Yeah, so that trick basically skips the entire first 2 segments of Egg Rocket. It saves around 30 to 40 seconds with Knuckles. Tails has a version where he goes straight to the very top and skips the entire stage, which saves around 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, Tails' version is both easier and saves more time.
Yeah, it's way easier, because Tails' version is you have to do 2 super flies, which is kind of a similar trick to a super glide, but in his case it's way easier. Whereas Knuckles, you have to do like 5 more of them, and each one of them is like 10 times harder. So I'm gonna glide over this upside down portion here.
Yeah, so it's worth mentioning that a lot of these places where you get shot around, this is going to become relevant in the next level, are dependent on where you enter them. So bear that in mind. He's not going to skip all of them. He can't skip all of them.
Alright, so this boss has a gimmick where you have to land near the boss with enough vertical momentum to flip him over. But after each time you damage him, you can't flip him over for a little bit of time. So I'm waiting a little bit between each hit, because I know the exact amount of cooldown I need to wait before I can start flipping him again.
Yeah, this boss is one of the ones that can be really tricky.
It's one of those fights where, like, it's not hard once you practice it a lot. Like, I just do this without even thinking about it with music cues, because it's the same every time. But if anything goes wrong, then it kind of goes to hell. Like right now. Thankfully, I still have my ring. Alright. So the next stage is X Zone. It's kind of a fun little throwback. It has a throwback to a boss from Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, and then a very, very well-designed boss fight after that, unique to this game. So it's kind of a little boss rush mode.
Yeah. And the thing I was talking about earlier, I was getting Knuckles confused for another character. Don't mind me. So yeah, shoutouts to previous bosses in other Sonic games.
Yeah, I have auto cues for these quick kills, because I'm an M the idiot who has a world record and with all 4 characters on this aisle, because it's terrible. Because the last boss is terrible and luck based. So you want to wait. The only way to reliably beat this boss is to keep taking damage and pray he gives you a good pattern.
Yeah, essentially the way it works is when he's on the right side, your rings are going to bounce to the left. So you want him to be there, especially when you only have 1 ring, because that first ring is going to go left no matter what. And you want him to give, especially this hand, that hand pattern. So that just gives him the longest period of vulnerability. Nice. So I'm Yeah, he didn't go left at all there. That is what you want more than anything else.
1802.
That's sub 20. I got every skip in the run, almost.
That is really bleeping good.
Like I'm still going. My heart is still going crazy from the fact that I got Egg Rocket. Like, you have no idea how ridiculously hard that trick is. I only got it twice during my D-Rust this past few days. But I'm pretty happy with that. That was really solid. Glad Knuckles won.
Only really solid? No, that was really, really freaking impressive for a Knuckles marathon run.
Yeah. Alright. Thanks for donating.
Is that world
Thanks for
record?
having me. Honestly, it wouldn't entirely surprise me if that was a world record, because my record is not that great. It has a 30-second death in Egg Rocket. But I would
Yeah,
have to
that
time
might be.
I'm pretty sure that was deathless, right?
That was
That was.
deathless, but I did miss half of a skip. So I'll have to look back at that.
Are you,
Yeah, it'll probably be close.
Are you guys staying in here with combo or?
I'm
I
not
probably
having
will
combo.
be, unless he doesn't necessarily want any. We'll probably prefer to have at least one of us around, but whatever.
Yeah, I asked Combo and he said that he's cool with me around. I'm sure he's fine with you around too. He's not too much of a talker.